The myth of closure. One of the most damaging ideas passed around survivor spaces is the notion of closure. That one final conversation or one last message or seeing them to get justice will make the thinking stop. But closure is a myth, especially in narcissistic abuse, because there was no shared reality to close. There was no mutual narrative, no recognition of truth. Seeking closure from the narcissist only deepens the loop. It reactivates the internal inversion. You go looking for answers from the very structure that created the collapse. In doing so, you reinforce their role as the author of your piece. That's not closure, that's re entry. What you're really craving is not closure, it's internal repair, a symbolic breaking of the loop, the recognition that the person you are trying to reconcile with was never real in the way you hoped, and the story you're trying to complete was never yours to finish. The loop ends when you begin to reclaim authorship of your symbolic world. This isn't a cognitive process, it is a psychological reorientation. You stop thinking about them when you realize they were a false object, not a lost partner. You recognize the fantasy was a survival adaptation, not a relationship. You reclaim your own internal gaze and stop scanning for others. You mourn the self you lost, not the person who took it. You see your thoughts not as yours, but as echoes of a system that you are now choosing to exit. Recovery is not the deletion of thoughts, it is the re establishment of your own psychic center. When you are no longer seeking them to stabilize you, the obsession collapses, not through effort, but through irrelevance. They no longer symbolize anything you need. You don't stop thinking about them by force. You stop thinking about them because they no longer define your pain or your meaning. You're not obsessed, you're still co opted. If you've been asking yourself, why can't I stop thinking about them? The answer is not weakness, obsession, or addiction. The answer is that your symbolic, emotional, and nervous systems were reconstructed around a false object, and that object still lives in you, not because you want it to, but because it was installed without your consent. You don't need closure, you need yourself back, not the version that survived them, the one that never got to live before them. When you realize that the thoughts are not yours, they are the relics of a collapsed system, you begin to return slowly, not to who you were before, but to someone capable of narrating their own meaning again. And when that happens, you won't need to stop thinking about them. You simply won't be. Peace out. Loads of love.